On Thursday, March 30th, 1922, on a small farm in Bavaria, Germany, Andreas Gruber found a set of footprints in the forest that led into his barn. However, he did not find any footprints that led away. Cautiously, he investigated the barn but found nobody. While in bed that night, he would hear footsteps coming from the attic. On April 1st, the family's daughter, Cecilia Gruber, failed to show up for school. Later that night, a neighbor was walking by the farm and noticed smoke coming from the chimney of the house. On Tuesday, April 4th, 6 bodies of the Gruber family and their maid were found inside of the barn and house. In the barn, underneath a pile of hay, the bodies of Victoria, Cecilia, Andreas, and little Cecilia Gruber are found stacked on top of each other. Investigators concluded that was the order they had died in. In the house, the body of the family maid, Maria Baumgartner, is found in her bed, and the body of 2-year-old Josef is found in his crib. They had all been struck in the head multiple times by an axe that the family owned. Shockingly, it was determined that the family had been murdered on the night of Friday, March 31st, the night before the neighbor saw smoke coming from the chimney. In the months leading up to the murder, the family had reported many strange occurrences. Victoria Gruber and the maid at the time, Kreisens Rieger, had been hearing strange noises coming from the attic for multiple days. Upon inspection, nothing was found that could be making such noises. The maid also reported that at midnight she would see her chamber door suddenly open, even though it was locked. 6 months before the murder, after having this happen multiple times, she would quit her job. In the days leading up to the murders, Andreas had lost a key to the house and never found it. There were also the strange footprints that Andreas had been hearing. A magazine was also found in their yard. However, it didn't belong to any of the family members, and the mailman said he never delivered it. It's also important to understand the layout of the house. The living area was attached to the barn, which was attached to the engine room, forming an L shape. The standing theory is that during the night of March 31st, the killer or killers had entered the house from the machine room. Somehow, they lured each of the family members into the barn one by one where they had killed them. Then they entered the house to kill Maria and Josef. With all that, let's get into our suspects. Our first suspect is Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Lorenz was a neighbor of the Grubers and was the one who had first discovered the bodies. Let's quickly cover his relations with the family. In 1918, Lorenz had begun an intimate relationship with Victoria Gruber. During that time, Victoria was a widow after her husband, Carl Gabriel, had died in World War I. Lorenz wanted to marry Victoria, but her father refused. It should also be noted that in the past, Andreas, Victoria's father, had been sent to prison for incest with Victoria. In 1919, when Victoria gave birth, Lorenz suddenly denied being the father and claimed that Andreas was the father of the child. But after a legal battle, Lorenz would claim paternity of the child. Now let's look into how he discovered the bodies. After days without anybody in town hearing or seeing the family, and no activity coming from the homestead, Lorenz became worried, so he and 2 neighbors decided to investigate themselves. When they tried to enter from the machine room, it was locked, forcing them to break in. Once inside, they went into the barn, where they found the 4 bodies. After this discovery, Lorenz took out a key from his pocket and unlocked the living area. It's unknown how he came into possession of this key, but as mentioned before, the family had lost a key in the days prior to the murder. Also, when the bodies were found in the barn, Lorenz had pulled them out from under the hay, disturbing the crime scene. In the months after the murders, Lorenz was a primary suspect due to his intimate knowledge of the case, and the police thought he had information that only they should have known. Lorenz claims that he knew so much because of his relationship with the family and his close proximity to their farm. As for a motive, some claim that Victoria had been asking for child support around this time, which could have sent Lorenz into a rage. The problem with Lorenz is that he may have already had a key due to his son living on the farm and him commonly helping the family. It's also possible that Victoria had given him a key and they were still seeing each other. There is also nothing to suggest that Lorenz wanted the family and his son dead. Our second suspect is Anton Beichler. Anton Beichler was a factory worker who was attracted to the first maid, Kreisen Rieger. During her stay with the Grubers, Anton had proposed to her. However, when she told the Grubers about it, they advised against it, claiming that Anton was a common thief. They also claimed that Anton had stolen chickens from the farm. After rejecting the proposal, Anton would come to Kreisen's window during the night, but she would never let him in. After a while, he stopped. She was told by somebody that Anton blamed the Gruber family for them not getting together, Anton had also reportedly said, quote, "The Kaifeckers should all be killed." Anton had knowledge of the farm, being that he had helped the family with work in the past. Furthermore, Kreisen would go on to say that a neighbor named Siegel had expressed similar disdain towards the Grubers, and she thought Anton, his brothers, and Siegel had committed the murders. But there is no evidence to suggest that he had committed the murders, and it seems strange that he would wait for 6 months after Kreisen had left to commit the murders. Unfortunately, with old cases like this, information, evidence, and rumors are lost to time. We have to do the best with what we are given and hope that someday new evidence will come to light. However, until this happens, the murders of the 6 members of the Hinterkaifeck farm will remain a mystery.